What's up, everyone? It's your good friend Eric Thompson. So please be sure to subscribe to this channel so you get more helpful videos just like this one. Check it out. This is a question that I know you get all the time from your clients. Of course, they're asking you about the market. They're saying to you, so what's the market going to do? Where are we headed? What do you see in your crystal ball, right? They're watching prices jump up. They're watching interest rates be at their lowest level ever. They're watching the inventory be at its lowest level ever. They have a ton of questions about the market. They're really wondering, even worried about what's the market going to do? Well, you know what the market's going to do? It's going to do this, what it's always done. The market in your market is going to do what it's always done. The thing is, your market has a long-term history. Your market has very specific patterns. Your market over the long term is actually very predictable into the future. Your market has certain fundamentals that have been true, that will always be true about your market. Your market is going to keep doing over the long term what it has always done. See, here's the thing. There's a chance to ask a better question, right? There's a better question than what's the market going to do? Not that that's a terrible question, not that that's the wrong question, but there is a better question to ask as we consider this client and their concerns, their questions, what they're wondering about the market. And we're talking about buyers specifically, and here is the better question to ask. How long do you see yourself living in the home? All right. So what we want to do is we want to shift up the time frame because they're worried about what's going to happen next month or in 6 months or next year. But that's not relevant based on how long they're going to see, how long they see themselves living in the home. So just ask them. So I'm curious, how long do you see yourself living in this home? They're probably going to say somewhere around 7 to 10 years. Now, sure, there are those cases where people for sure see themselves in the property for the short term for whatever reason, but that's not very common, right? For the most part, most commonly, they're going to see themselves in the home at least 5 years, more likely seven, probably more like 10. The average tenure right now of a homeowner is 10 years, right? So let's shift up the time frame, ask them. So I'm curious, how long do you see yourself living in this home? And then answer the question based on their answer. All right. So talk about the market in the context of the answer that they just gave you. All right. So let's say they said 10 years. You can say, okay, great. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what we can expect 10 years from now based on the history of our market and what our market has done over the long term and the certain fundamentals that are just here in place. I mean, let's go look at the numbers and what's happened for our market over the long term. And then let's project out, let's see if we can apply that to what we see happening 10 years from now, right? So the history of your market will shine a light onto the future of your market, all right? So what we've just done is we've shifted up the time frame and we're really helping out this client. We're putting the answer in the context of how they see the market and how we see the market 10 years from now. And is it going to be different than today? All right. Can we expect that values will increase 10 years from today based on these certain factors, based on the fundamentals, based on the history? I think in just about every case, we can draw that conclusion. All right. And sure, we're not selling the investment and we're not making specific promises or guarantees or anything like that. We're just using history to be our guide. We're using history to bring some clarity into the conversation so that they can feel more comfortable, so that they can feel more confident, so they can view all this in the context of their own personal time frame. Most of your markets will have up to 40 years of data. It's not that hard to find, right? There's several sources you can go to. You can go to NAR. You can go to the Federal Housing Finance Authority. You can look at Case-Shiller. There's many sources where you can find a long-term history of data for your market. You can go to your company. You can look at your MLS, right? All of these different sources are great places to go. What you want to find, what you want to know about is the very long-term history of your market. In most cases, for primary residential markets, the number is going to be somewhere around 5 to 6%. All right, somewhere around that, give or take, per year over the last 40 years. That's what your market has done. And also what you can find in that 40 years worth of data, you can find 10-year patterns, right? So you could break up the 40 years into 10-year chunks, right? 4 10-year chunks, and you can find, well, what did the market do within those 10-year chunks? probably what you're going to find is that what happened in those 10-year chunks is really close to what happened over 40 years, right? So you can say to the client, look, here's 40 years worth of data. Here's what we see. Let's pretend you can say then what we notice and what we know is that the market has appreciated about 5% per year for the last 40 years. And what's interesting is when you look at individual 10-year chunks, inside those 10-year chunks, the market appreciates about 5% per year, give or take a little bit. So we can use that to make some reasonable projections onto what we think may happen going into the future, right? So you want to be able to speak to the fundamentals. So find the fundamentals of your market around employment, around location, around scarcity of supply. Are there certain things that constrain the supply of your market based on geography, based on zoning, right? There's all these specific fundamentals that your market has. Speak to those fundamentals because fundamentals don't change, right? Fundamentals have always been there. They will drive your market into the future. So really what we're doing here, guys, what we're doing is we're shifting up the time frame. So their concerns about what's going to happen six weeks from now or 6 months from now, they aren't relevant. You know, we can appreciate why they may have those concerns and those questions and those curiosities. We can appreciate that, but it's just not relevant. It's not relevant to their own personal time frame. So we got to shift up the whole time frame of this conversation, which starts with the question, how long do you see yourself living in this home? And then go answer the question, give them clarity about the market based on their own personal time frame. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please subscribe again so you keep getting videos just like this one. Also helps me out. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Have an awesome day.